am intelligent and creative. I am bold and determined. I rely on teamwork, and I am accountable. I am a competitor who will defend my territory. I love to play and will never give up. I am committed for life because I am a raven.
And welcome to the program, everyone. As we launch the second episode, we can now say welcome back as well to those who joined us last month for the launch of the Thursday Night Live program. It's 5 p.m. in Ottawa, beautiful day, and we're delighted you could join us from wherever you are, and hope you can tune in every month as we shine a spotlight on the high impact players and topics relevant to Carleton athletics and the broader Carleton community, and perhaps most importantly, to support student athletic excellence. The Big I.D.E.A program to follow will feature a robust agenda, furthering the continuation of an important conversation surrounding EDI initiatives and champions at Carleton University and Carleton University Athletics. The Thursday Night Live is honored to devote its first substantive topic to this important endeavor, and will see us look at the topic through a macro global campus lens, and then we'll drill down to a micro level view through the eyes of the students and staff and the Varsity Council. Before I pass it off to our MC to walk through the agenda, a couple of important housekeeping notes. The program will be recorded and sent along later for you to rewatch or share with your team, and will feature a Q&A at the end should you wish to enter a question to consider then. This being said, let's acknowledge the location of our campus. Carleton University acknowledges the location of its campus on the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Nation. Now, turning our attention to the formal agenda, let me introduce our MC for the program. Fellow alumni and varsity athlete, Jeff Morris. Jeff is a proud grad and former Carleton athlete and kicker for the Carleton football team from 1982 to 86. He was also the all-time leading scorer in Ravens history from 85 until 2017. And after graduating Carleton, he played semi-pro football for many years in the United States, and in his professional life in sports media worked in Dallas, Denver, Nashville, and Seattle for such sports outlets as ESPN.com and Fox Sports Radio. Jeff also owns a local media company as the leader of a Carleton football podcast. And thank you for joining us again, Jeff. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Trevor. And we welcome you to the Big I.D.E.A. I.D.E.A is an acronym: Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Allies. We're discussing all those things in Carleton University athletics and recreation. This special episode of our Thursday Night Live series will strive to bring student athletes, key campus allies, and Carleton athletics champions together to discuss and celebrate how Carleton and its athletes are working to foster an enabling, equitable, and inclusive culture in varsity athletics. We've got a strong lineup of guests tonight. We're going to hear from the head of Carleton Athletics, Jennifer Brenning, then go to Ravens basketball legend and Hall of Famer Osvaldo Gianti. We will be joined by Dwayne Taylor, who is Carleton's Diversity, Equity, and Community Programs Coordinator. From there, we will go to Carleton University athletic therapist Nadine Smith. She will be joined by Carleton student athletes Jimmy Arabito, Roberto Drummond, and Jolene and Jenny Wong. Now, without further ado, we'll switch to a very familiar face around campus for an official welcome by Jennifer Brenning, the esteemed leader and Assistant Vice President, Recreation and Athletics. Jennifer is celebrating nearly 16 years at the helm, and we are very honored to have her here tonight. Jennifer, as we bring you now live onto screen, we look forward to your updates. And as Trevor said earlier, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this version of Thursday Night Live, the Big I.D.E.A, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Allies. From our last update on March 11th, we are back in shutdown and I am in my home. We opened for 7 weeks from February 17th, and we closed again on April 1st, and will most likely stay closed for at least the next month, if not longer, due to this unfortunate and scary third wave of COVID-19. Over the course of the year, our department has been working to address systemic racism. Our student athletes, I met with them over the summer of last year several times, representatives of each of our varsity programs, and they articulated to me some of the issues they were facing in the department. And so I've been working with them to address the issues in the department, as well as our Department of Equity, Diversity and Inclusive Communities, who offered educational workshops to our student athletes, our coaches, and our staff. And we have another workshop coming up. I think there was one today and one next week for our staff. It's a follow-up workshop. In addition, we created some subcommittees of our varsity council, and you're going to be hearing from our student athletes today, and they're doing some amazing work in this area. In addition, we've been actively participating in the OUA's Black, Biracial, and Indigenous Communities Research Project from the University of Toronto, I.D.E.A's lab, which is studying racism in the OUA. We are also following up with the OUA Task Force recommendations from the BBI, the Black, Biracial, Indigenous Committee. And we are very committed to being better. I will turn this now back over to Jeff, who will be also introducing a very special guest. Jeff, back over to you.
We're now joined by a man who needs no introduction on the Carleton University campus. Carleton Athletic Hall of Famer Osvaldo Janti led the Ravens basketball team to 5 straight U Sports national championships. The first 5 in the program's history. He was the MVP in 3 of the 5 championship games. He was a 2-time Final 8 MVP, a 2-time CIS Player of the Year, a 2-time first team All-Canadian, and was once a second-team All-Canadian. He played for the Canadians men's national team and played professionally in Germany, Romania, Morocco, and back in Canada. A native of Haiti, Osvaldo moved to Canada at the age of 6 and quickly fell in love with sports. He played soccer, baseball, football, and volleyball before focusing on basketball. Oz, welcome to the show. And I have to tell you, in my NCAA bracket this year, I wrote in the 2006-07 Carleton Ravens beating Gonzaga in the Final Four. Everyone else in my pool is American. They were like, what? But they just don't know about the greatness of the Ravens program. So first of all, think back to that first championship at Carleton. Did you and your team have any idea that that victory would lead to the greatest dynasty in U Sports history?
Wow, good question. I think we always had an idea because of the people that were around us. I think we had a great team of individual players. We had a great coach, and we always had great support from around. So I think we were just really starting something, and we knew that it was going to be special for a long time coming. You know, just the support system, the staff, the athletic therapy. I see Nadine on the call. I see Bruce on the call. I literally know Nadine since she's been probably her first year working there. So now she has 3 kids, and it's like time flies. So I really think we had a great team, but what really differentiates Carleton from every other school was the fact that we had a great support system.
Now, when you think back to the championships, the people involved, the coaches, all your teammates, is there one that stands out above the others as your favorite championship, or did it get better with everyone, or was the last one the best? How do you rank them, or which is the one you think about when you want to go in a happy place?
The one I think about the most is the one in my 4th year. I always enjoyed having the most adversity as possible and proving everybody wrong. So for my 4th year, nobody even thought that we were going to win. Everybody counted us out. We had came back and won 3 championships prior. And in our 4th year, we had a pretty good team, but we lost I say our second best player. He would say he was the best time, and Dornicamp. We lost him because of an injury too. And so when we lost him, we lost in the OUA finals, to York, or in the playoffs to York. We lost in the playoffs to York, and they went on to the OUA finals. And that gave us a chance to really prepare for what was coming next. We got the wild card that year, and we were ranked third. And then the most interesting part is every time I look at the national championship team that won that year, our biggest guy was our point guard at 6'4". So our starting lineup was myself at 6 feet, Bowl at 6'2", Rob Saunders at 6'3", 6'2". Maybe I'm giving him a little much with 6'3", and then Ryan Bell at 6'4". So I think, just the adversity and us being able to find a way to win these basketball games was such a great feat for us, and that's the one that I'll remember.
Looking back at your career as at Carleton, you stayed in basketball. You graduated, you became a pro player, then a coach. How have you seen the culture in the sport and the culture at Carleton change over the 2 decades since you've been gone as a player?
Well, the culture has changed a lot, and I just think I tell Dave all the time, I probably would never be playing under the circumstances that those guys are playing right now. And the reason that I say so is I think became a lot more militant with the way too. I remember having the conversation with him, and he said, you know what, like, it's not like it used to be. Guys don't want to go in the gym on their own. And in order to have a successful program, you got to make sure that their time is essentially not theirs, where they're always in the gym at certain points in time. For me, when I first started out, I was like, if I felt like going in the gym at 10 o'clock after I worked my control center hours to shoot for 1 hour, I could do that. If I felt like going to the gym at 6:30, I could do that. I really hated having those specific time that he has. I also think now the big difference about this, I think the sport now is starting to be more known. As you can tell, we have the most number of NBA players other than America. So I think the sport is getting bigger. I think it's the recruiting process is a little bit different. You have a harder time keeping your best players in Canada just because now the borders are so open. YouTube, the power of the internet. I mean, I'm telling you guys my age a little bit, but in 2002, it was just then we were starting with email, and in school I was using the typewriter or double spaced writing in pen, right? I can't even imagine now telling kids nowadays to write a paper of 10 pages double spaced in pen and writing in cursive. So a lot of things have changed. The internet has made it very, very different in terms of recruiting our talent.
When you were a student athlete, what are some of the lessons you learned, some of the life lessons that kind of stayed with you and helped you for success in later stages in your life?
I don't really ever think that I would be where I am today if I didn't go to Carleton, if I didn't play under Dave. For me, when that we had to play with, the amount of work that we've put in, he was a very no excuse. Don't throw your teammates under the bus. Be disciplined. Manage your time. Work harder than everybody else. Be prepared, more prepared than anybody else. And then usually if you do those things, that will gain you success. And for Dave, he never really looked at the end result as much. And of course, as I say that, I think about it and I go, oh, well, maybe he did look a little bit at the end result. But when you really actually think about it and you get to understand what he was about, he was really about the process. And he felt that whether our score was higher than the other teams or their score, if we gave everything that we got in terms of being more holding each other accountable, that we would have the success. And usually that's what it's about, right? It's if you do all those things, usually your score will be higher than the other teams. And that level of competition, that level of discipline, I carried that on for pretty much everything that I do in my life. And that's what I really believe the keys to success are. I do a lot of public speaking for companies as well that bring me in terms of what does it take to be a great leader? What does it take successful team and success.
And one last thing tonight, we're talking about equity, diversity, inclusion, a lot of issues like that. It's become a real underlying social theme in pro sports, especially in the NBA. We're in a time now where athletes realize they have a voice and a platform. And as we saw in the NBA bubble last year, they can even band together and have games canceled. They can affect things like that, whereas that was unthinkable a decade ago. What are your personal thoughts on this movement, and do you think this empowerment of athletes was long overdue?
Well, about, and I am constantly involved with trying to affect change, because I came from a generation, especially at Carleton. I've seen a tremendous difference in terms of how many different types of individuals. I came from, when I looked at my program, the first time I came in, I remember coming into the locker room my first time and looking around me and going, this is interesting. I'm probably one of two Black guys. There was me, Japheth. No, one of three. So there was me, Japheth, and BJ at that point in time. And now I see a complete change of, there's so much more diversity in every single team. So I think that platform is a great thing for us. I think the systemic racism has always been, just so glad that it's been put a little bit more to the forefront what it is, and people are more open to speaking about it. I think that is really what changed everything. People being more open to speak about it and speak up. I think it was always there, and people just kind of closed their eyes to it and pretended it like it was not. The biggest thing that we're doing now is acknowledging there is a problem, and then everybody's willing to listen to what the problem is, and we're trying to affect change, each on our own terms and how we do it. And it's not just about Black and white. There's so many other people that are affected by that, and there's a lot of people that I know that are involved that, they may not be Black, but they've been around people that they care about, and that they had to listen to what their pain and what they've through. And I think they're always open to help, and that makes a big difference. NBA is being able to do too, is looking at it where, how do we make a long lasting impact? Because we've been fighting this for many, many, many years, and we have to find a way to make a long lasting impact. And the way that we do that is we need help. We need help, not only us speaking, but people in power being able to say, we're willing to lend a hand. We're willing to change legislature a little bit. And I think if that happens, I think there's going to be progress. There's already progress just by people being okay with listening and just not closing. It's not there.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Oz, for joining us tonight. And again, continue best wishes for your continued success as a coach and a dad, and a basketball dad, I hope. And Trevor, let's throw it back to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Very good. Thank you, Oz. And thank you, Jeff. And thank you to everyone for your patience as we work through some technical issues. This has been the theme for 2021. Let's take a moment now to tell everyone about our next special guest speaker, Dwayne Taylor. Dwayne is a strategist, facilitator, and fundraiser based in Ottawa. As a strategist, he specializes in helping organizations integrate social justice, anti-oppression, and community engagement into policies, programs, services, and operations. He is currently leading Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, I.D.E.A, initiatives for the Student Affairs Division at Carleton University. Experiential learning is Dwayne's passion. He has facilitated leadership and design thinking workshops for over 1,000 people in 5 countries. His passion for learning and commitment to social justice has enabled him to fundraise over $1 million for charities locally and globally, both as a professional fundraiser and in volunteer capacities. Dwayne is an alumni as well, 2-time graduate at Carleton University with a master's degree in nonprofit leadership and a bachelor's in law and sociology. Dwayne, thank you again for joining us. We couldn't be happier you could be here and to share your insights. And as we bring you onto the screen, we'll now turn it over to you. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Trevor, and thank you, Oz and Jeff, for that really amazing conversation. I don't remember writing a paper on lines and double space with hand, and I'm not as old as you guys, so things have definitely changed in the past few years. I'm honored to be here today and happy to contribute what I can to this conversation and to add value to this ongoing discussion that we're having around equity, diversity, and inclusion. I could come here and stand and have a conversation about, this is what I do and this is what Carleton's doing and those sorts of pieces, but that wouldn't be as fun. So I want to try something a little bit different. And I'm going to start with something that we can all relate to, and that's sports. And that's what we're here to talk about today as well. So if we can go to the next slide, I want to share something. So here we have this notion, and I'm sure everyone has heard this before, right? This idea that sports has the power to change the world, and it does. And this is something that we all are aware of, is something that we're all known for, and something that we've heard a million times before. What a lot of folks don't know is who said this quote and where it comes from. The full quote is, "Sports has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language that they understand. Sport can create hope where there was despair, and it is more powerful than governments and breaking down racial barriers." And this quote actually comes from the great Nelson Mandela, who, for those of you who don't know, was a prolific boxer in South Africa, and obviously a social justice and civil rights leader. And when I hear this quote, I know that it's true. I know that the power that sports have. I'm a big sports fan myself. We the North Raptors all the way, and of course Ravens. And what really stands out to me is these three different components when we talk about this quote, when we talk about sport. It's this idea of a goal, right? Working together towards a common goal, which is something that a lot of sports are about. We're all kind of working towards a common objective and goal together. Then there's this notion of a team, working together with others to achieve that goal, collaborating, coming together, sharing ideas, sharing perspectives. And then there's this idea of community, right? Which is this concept of not just coming together as a team, but sharing our perspectives wider with those around us, giving people something to believe in, giving people something to rally around. And that's what EDI means to me. It's all around goals, teams, and communities. So if we go to the next slide, we have this idea that is our goal is to work as a team to build a community where everyone belongs. And this is how I perceive EDI, or equity, diversity, and inclusion work, is we are all working together as a team to build that community that everyone belongs and everyone has a place. And that's how I kind of see my job. That's what I do at Carleton University, and that's what many of us are doing. If we go to the next slide, I want to share something as well, which is, this is something we're all also aware of, that there's no I in team, right? We've heard this probably a million times. Anyone who did any sort of athletics or professional training or anything like that, all around the team, all around coming together. So when I say I do EDI work, what I mean is that I'm one piece of that puzzle, right? We all have a role to play, and we all are contributing to this initiative in different ways. I know Oz recently mentioned that what we're starting to see in these shifts with institutions and organizations like the NBA coming forward and trying to bring these topics to the forefront is that there is this institutional overarching approach, but there's also this individual responsibility. What do we as individuals do to contribute to this conversation, this discussion, to allow change to happen organically and to move it forward progressively? So like I said, I'm one piece of the puzzle. So if we go to the next slide, and one other piece that is important is that as I'm one piece of the puzzle, you're all pieces of the puzzle, we're all coming together. But for us to win championships, we also have to win games. And this is something, again, another adage that when it relates to sports that we all think about. That means that there is incremental actions. So just like there is incremental impact from all of us coming together to create change, incremental actions need to happen as well for us to sustain change and to achieve that championship, if you will. I know it's not a perfect analogy, but I've got a sports theme here, so I got to keep it going. What I really want to share with you today is talking a little bit about some of those incremental actions that Carleton University is taking as a whole. As an institution, Carleton University has done a lot in recent months and years to really advance equity, diversity, and inclusion. One of the biggest things that we've done recently is establishing our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Action Plan. This was a long process. It started in February of last year and extended all the way through all of 2020. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, we actually launched the plan to the wider public. It included consultations with students. It included consultations with external community members. It included consultations with staff and faculty. And what was really unique about it is that it was collaborative. It was this idea of team and people coming together for this common goal. It's really common for organizations and institutions to kind of put out policies and put out ideas and say, this is what we're going to do, without being open to feedback and collecting feedback from community members. Carleton did the opposite. We had the entire draft policy on our website for weeks for people to leave comments, anyone that could go to Carleton's website. And I thought that was really cool. I think that speaks to the institution and the university's commitment to not just advancing this topic of equity, diversity, and inclusion, but also being willing to listen and being willing to say, okay, this is what we're doing well, and this is where we have areas for improvement. And this is how we're able to receive feedback from community members. I know that Jennifer mentioned the similar approach earlier of listening to student athletes and involving them in those discussions. And I think that's not just unique to athletics. This is something that's happening university-wide. Some other great advancements that Carleton has made as an institution recently is hiring. We've hired a pretty robust team for equity, diversity, inclusion, myself included. Like I mentioned, I'm one piece of the puzzle, but we've recently hired learning facilitators and experts on I.D.E.A learning that are there to help faculty and staff in implementing training programs for their teams. We've also hired specific counselors to support racialized students and 2S LGBTQ+ students. And there's probably about 2 or 3 of me on campus in various faculties as well, doing similar work to what I'm doing with the Student Affairs Division at Carleton University. All of the work that we're doing all rolls up into this institutional plan of equity, diversity, and inclusion. My role is focused on students. So right now I'm analyzing policy, developing programming, and working through initiatives to help the student experience as it relates to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Then we have the Equity and Inclusive Communities Office, and they do similar work, but they focus on a campus-wide approach, including staff and faculty as well. All of this comes down to this simple idea. And the simple idea is that we all want to be good teammates. We all want to come together and work on this together to make a transformative change. So what I want to leave you with this evening and this afternoon is, what are you going to do as a teammate to contribute to this initiative? Whether it's supporting athletics, supporting the student athletes, having conversations with your peers, having conversations with your families. For us to really sustain change, it can't just come from me. It can't just come from Oz. It can't just come from Jennifer or Jeff or Trevor or anyone else that's on this call today. It can't just come from our students. We all have to contribute to this initiatives and contribute to advancing justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion for everyone. That's all I have to share for today. And I hope that I was able to give you an insight into a little bit of the work that Carleton University is doing. Back to you, Trevor.
Thank you once again, Dwayne. And we banter around the word community a lot at Carleton. We have strength in numbers in our community, and thanks for reminding us of that. And a reminder to anyone who's watching, if you have any questions for Dwayne or others, please feel free to post them for later in the show. Now you can join me as we walk over the tracks from the Uni Center to the Eastern Hemisphere of the campus and athletics, as we welcome back Jeff to set up the halftime celebration, where we will hear from student athletes and staff on the I.D.E.A front initiatives at Carleton. Jeff?
Thanks, Trevor. And our halftime is going to be chaired by Nadine Smith. Nadine is a certified athletic therapist, and she's been working closely with student athletes at Carleton for more than 20 years, working throughout this time with the vast majority of Carleton's athletics teams. Nadine has been devoted to university sport and sport performance throughout her career, and has had the opportunity to be part of many games, Pan Am games, as well as traveled with the Canadian team to 3 FISU games in Harbin, China in 2009, Granada, Spain in 2015, and I'm not even going to say the town in Russia. I'm not even going to try that one, Nadine, in 2019. In addition, she has also been honored to sit on the High Performance Providers Committee for her National Association for the past 5 years. So Nadine, thank you again for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Trevor and Oz and Dwayne for doing an amazing job, and Trevor for the invitation to speak. So, and welcome everybody. It's weird for me to talk and not actually see the people that I'm speaking to, so hopefully it goes okay. So as Jeff mentioned, I've been working at Carleton since 1999, and I've had kind of an on and off involvement with the Varsity Council. Historically, in the past, the Varsity Council was really just a means for the student athletes to kind of have a little bit of input into the varsity banquet, some of the awards, and then a few community events. And it really differed from year to year. Sometimes we did like a food drive, sometimes we did a clothing drive, you know, but it's really evolved over the past, I'd say probably like 5 to 10 years, where you know, we have more of the athletes that are engaged. They're not just sitting in the meetings and being kind of the liaison between what's going on in athletics and their team. They're actually getting involved in activities like Pink in the Rink, which is to bring breast cancer awareness in October. For usually women's hockey runs it. Shoot for the Cure, which is a women's basketball initiative through the OUA. And then of course, mental health awareness with Do It for Darren games. So yeah, so that's kind of where it started. But you know, throughout this pandemic and kind of being stuck at home and you know, trying to figure out how to support our student athletes, a staff got together. So Jennifer and Quasi and Cheryl and Sheila Ann, we got together and we had a bunch of meetings to kind of talk about the Varsity Council and how we wanted to kind of change it, and you know, and also what type of athletes and what type of people we wanted to graduate from Carleton. And we didn't, I mean, of course we want them to be academically successful, as well as if they're an athlete, we want them to be athletically successful, which could mean, you know, like doing a personal best or actually winning the national championships. But we also really, really want our athletes to be contributors to the community, have good life skills, and be well-rounded and resilient. So we kind of got together and, you know, in talking amongst the staff, we decided to create these kind of 3 subcommittees within Varsity Council, as well as a way for us to engage the athletes, because we weren't going to be seeing them in the revolving door of the clinic, the athletic therapy clinic every day. So we came up with 3 committees. One of them, community outreach, which is really kind of an extension from what we were already doing, and Sheila Ann Newton kind of leads that committee. And then our Races and Equity Diversity Committee, which Quasi Loney oversees. And then finally our Gender Equity and LGBTQ2+ committee, which Cheryl Hunt initiated actually last year, and it's been kind of a continuation. So yeah, so I want you to meet the awesome athletes that, I mean, all the athletes are awesome, but these 4 awesome athletes have really taken upon themselves to really work towards the success of these subcommittees. So first we're going to talk to Jimmy Arbido. So Jimmy is, he's from Ottawa, and he's on our men's soccer team. And so welcome, Jimmy. Are you here? There you are.
Nadine.
Hey,
hi, Nadine.
You still have those braces on, buddy.
I do. Hopefully in the next couple months I'll be good.
Okay, good. So just tell everybody a little bit about yourself. So I said you're on men's soccer and you're from Ottawa. How many years you've been playing, and tell us a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on here, and thank you to all of our guest speakers. They've been really, really great so far. So yeah, like Nadine mentioned, my name is Jimmy. I am from Ottawa. I wasn't born here. I was born in Nigeria actually, and moved here when I was around 7, just turning 8. So I've been in Ottawa pretty much for most of my childhood. I started playing soccer when I turned around 10 or 11. And sort of the rest is history. I was in Montreal playing for a little bit, decided to come back to Carleton, and This is my 4th year here. Unfortunately, we didn't have a season, but my 4 years here as part of the men's soccer program has been incredible. I have absolutely no regrets about being here. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. So Jimmy and I have spent a lot of time together in athletic therapy for various injuries that he's had. So we've gotten to know each other really well. But and Jimmy, I know you've always been involved within Carleton and like to be involved. But what really prompted you to want to create this subcommittee?
Yeah, well, I think specifically in the summer we saw sort of when everything was going on, and this came just after George Floyd was killed, and we saw everything that was happening in the U.S. and we kind of saw some movements starting here in Canada and in Ottawa, and Kwesi and I had a lot of discussions sort of about how it's time, and these issues have existed for decades, like some of our guest speakers were saying before. And I think, this summer we saw a real push to sort of bring these issues to the forefront and to actually have, open and honest discussions about them and, see where we as individuals and also as a collective, as universities, as, mentors, as people within the community, where we could improve and how we could sort of take this topic on ourselves and advance the conversation. So that's really where it started for me and with Kwesi. And I do have to thank you, Nadine, as well, because you've been sort of an integral part of making sure that all of our subcommittees have come to fruition. So that's sort of where we started things off.
Thanks for saying that. I want you to highlight some of the amazing things that we were able to accomplish this year in this kind of virtual year of Varsity Council.
Yeah, so unfortunately, with the pandemic, we haven't been able to gather in person, and that's been a little bit hard. On us as athletes, on us as just people. That social interaction is definitely something that is big and is missed. But within our subcommittee, through this online sort of year, we've been able to highlight, player quotes on our social media channels. We've had some athletes come onto our social media channels and share their experiences and, have open conversations and question and answer conversations. I think for me, one of the biggest highlights of this past year would be the town hall that we sort of created as a subcommittee and we were able to launch last month. And I think for that, we really just wanted to try to have an open conversation with some familiar faces and, provide a point of education and provide, a platform where people could come and listen and people come and learn. Because I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to do here. I'm learning every day, and we're all just trying to sort of, learn and find out different ways that we can contribute to advancing the conversation. So yeah, the town hall would definitely be my highlight.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And of course, I look forward to working with you further. So good. Okay, next.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Okay, so next we're going to move to Roberta. So Roberta, she's from the big city of Belleville, and she's on our women's rugby team. Roberta, tell us a little bit about yourself. What program are you in? Give us all the deets.
Yeah, sure. So like Jimmy, I just want to thank everyone for having me on. I'm super excited. So I'm actually from north of Belleville, but the city is so small that no one knows where it is. So I guess I'm from the Belleville area. I've been playing at Carleton for 5 years, and I started playing rugby in high school. So I've been playing rugby for almost 10 years. It's taken a crazy toll on my body, as Nadine would know. I need a lot of tape to be able to go to practice. I'm currently in my Bachelor of Biology, wrapping my thesis up, or trying to wrap my thesis up to graduate this summer. Since we didn't have a season, I have an extra year of eligibility. So I will be coming back next fall to wear the jersey for one last season. So it's very exciting.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so as I mentioned when I was talking about the kind of the intro part, like Cheryl and yourself really started the Gender Equity Committee last year, kind of before the pandemic happened. So how has it differed from kind of the start of the subcommittee to what you've been doing now?
Yeah, so when it started, it was kind of just a lot of female athletes being angry and yelling about issues that we felt were happening globally, and at the youth sports level and the university level. And as we know, there's lots of barriers that women and LGBTQ+ athletes face, and university sports not immune to those issues. So it started out as kind of a space for us to have open dialogue with administration and athletics about things that we wanted to see on campus and things we wanted to see changed. And now it's kind of transformed into this like awesome, powerful committee where we run events and host workshops and we post educational resources. And we had some really awesome head coach interviews and assistant coach interviews earlier in the fall, kind of one of our first projects we got off the ground. And we're planning a Women in Sport Leadership Conference for next year, which is super, super exciting, COVID permitting. Anti-discrimination training for LGBTQ+ athletes, which is going to be the first of its kind, in the youth sports as far as we know. So yeah, it started as kind of a conversation. Now it's transformed into preemptive action, which is super, super exciting.
That's excellent. Good. Any projects that you want to kind of accomplish throughout the summer at all, or a little bit of it? Go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said, we're really working hard on the LGBTQT anti-discrimination training, which is going to be massive for us because I was pulling up some statistics from different research papers, and 26% of students between the ages of 18 and 24 identify in the LGBTQ+ community. So if you have a roster with 25 or 30 athletes, you have to think about how many of those athletes might be in that community and might not be comfortable coming out to a coach or a teammate or something like that. On top of that, we kind of birthed this idea of creating an equity statement for all of Carleton. So we're thinking of having some kind of like equity value statement that's going to encompass what the whole campus wants to represent and what athletics wants to represent. It's going to be in your face when you walk in the door in athletics saying, this is what we stand for and this is what we don't allow. And that's going to be really, really awesome. Really excited.
Perfect. Work in progress. That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Roberta. Okay, and lastly, but not leastly, we're going to go to Jenny and Jolene Wong. So both Jenny and Jolene are on our women's soccer team. And tell us a little bit about yourselves, what program you're in, and then we'll go from there. Jenny, you can go first.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Jenny, and I'm in a Bachelor of Science in Biology.
I'm Jolene, and I'm in the business program with a concentration in marketing.
Perfect. Good. Excellent. Okay. So I'm so thankful. I mean, I'm thankful for all the athletes, but obviously I'm thankful for you too, because you have been involved in varsity council pretty much since you stepped through the doors of athletics. So, I mean, you've obviously helped with a lot of community events and stuff. Jolene, I'm going to let you go first. I want you to tell me what your most memorable community project or activity has been throughout your time at Carleton.
I have to say my most memorable and probably one of my favorite events that I've done or been a part of at Carleton was definitely the Bell Let's Talk Dodgeball tournament. I kind of helped start, I think it was in our second year at Carleton, was the first year it kind of was created and we had that event. And then just ever since that year, it's grown into a really big event where we see, I think, almost 200 athletes take part, which is something that's really cool because I feel like most of the year you don't get that many athletes from every team where there's representation from football to some of even our club teams as well. And it's really cool because a lot of athletes don't ever meet, especially if they're not necessarily all varsity athletes. So you get to meet the club athletes as well as you meet the hockey players, because a lot of the hockey teams you don't always see them because they're in the ice house versus the main athletics building where all the varsity teams are. And I think having all these athletes come together and meet each other and unite for a cause like mental health is something that has been really great to see and something that I always look forward to every year.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Okay, Jenny, your turn.
For me, I think my most memorable initiative that we've taken part in are our holiday initiatives. They always kind of are really special to me because I love the holidays and it's really nice to get to give back to the community and give back to people in need. So last year we did hampers where we were able to buy toys and food. So each team kind of got the chance to sponsor a family or multiple families and really pick out things specific for that family, which was awesome. This year we got to do a toy drive, which I think the whole Ravens community came together, and we were able to donate a lot of single toys to a really good cause. So this year we partnered with an old hockey alum and donated a bunch of toys to single moms in need. So I think that was probably one of my most memorable initiatives that our community outreach committee's done.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you so much. Perfect. Okay, Jeff, I think we've gotten a good base of what we're doing, and thanks so much. I'm handing it back to you.
Thanks, Nadine, and thanks to the student athletes. That's great initiatives that, a decade ago, that would never have existed at Carleton or any school. So congratulations to all of you for all the great work you're doing. We're going to jump into a new part of the program for Thursday Night Live. It's called the Ravens Rewind. We're going to turn our attention to this. It's a fun look back at the most viral social media posts from Go Ravens, Carleton Athletics social media channel. In case you missed it or would like to see it again, there have been a lot of reasons to celebrate Carleton Athletics during the pandemic, despite the fact that there have been no games. As you will see every month on Thursday Night Live, we're going to visit this. The athletics teams and student athletes have created a lot of big stories, funny videos, memes, viral content for you to enjoy. Cole Lawrence, the digital content and marketing assistant with Carleton Athletics, manages and creates social media content for the Carleton Ravens. He has been successful in increasing Carleton Ravens Instagram following from 4,000 followers to nearly 20,000 followers, making Carleton's Go Ravens Instagram the fourth most followed Instagram in all of Canadian youth sports. Simply put, what Ivan Doris Chuck was to the 80s pop band Men Without Hats, Cole is to the Carleton Ravens social media. So put your tray tables up, your seats in the upright position, and enjoy this offering from Cole Lawrence, our own purveyor of absolute digital sports adroitness.
Hello, Carleton alumni. I'm Cole Lawrence, Digital Content and Marketing Coordinator here at Carleton Athletics. Over the past 3 years, I've created and managed all the content for the main Carleton Ravens social media pages, as well as the basketball and football pages. I do a lot of graphic design, video editing, and research what's trending in social media today. Trevor Lewis from the alumni group had the great idea for me to come on the show and share some of the best social media moments from the previous month. Today I'll be going through the most viewed, shared, and talked about stories and content pieces from the month of March. This is Ravens Rewind. First up is Jordan Kilgannon, professional dunker and YouTube sensation from Sudbury, Canada. He first went viral at the 2016 All-Star Game in Toronto, getting reactions like this from NBA stars. He won multiple titles on the Dunk King, blowing away Shaq and Kenny Smith. Earlier this month, he stopped by the Ravens Nest, showing us his amazing dunk repertoire. You can see the full vlog on Jordan's YouTube channel. Here's the dunk that went absolutely viral on Instagram. It was reposted by The Score, Ball is Life, House of Highlights, accounting for millions and millions of views. With no Final Eight tournament this year, we took a look back at some of the greatest moments in Ravens basketball history.
3 straight, 4 straight, 5 in a row. Another perfect season and another national championship. For the 9th time, the best ever.
Who remembers the prayer from Trayer in the 2018 semifinals?
Trayer banking it in on the runner. Carleton have their first lead of the game, and they win a thriller. 46-44 the final.
What about the buzzer beater from Stu Turnbull against Western back in 2009? From the men's first title in 2003 to the women's first in 2018, all the way to number 15 last March, it was a great time going down Dynasty Lane. The CFL has invited 5 Ravens to the 2021 Virtual Combine. Players will submit a video with their combine results this year. Congrats to the Ravens DBs, Cole Hepburn and Danny McWhirter, who will participate in the regional combine.
Picks off Connor Carasello and takes it to the end zone.
In the national combine, we have big man DM Shaheen Charles Brown, OUA All-Star linebacker Trevor Hoyt, and Guelph transfer D lineman Alain Simon-Kinda. CFL draft day is on May 4th. Ravens linebacker Jack Cassar has signed his deal with the Toronto Argos. He's the last of the Ravens 2019 draft class after Jesse Lawson signed with Saskatchewan and Mitch Raper signed with Edmonton. Jack was an absolute beast with the Ravens, winning the OUA President's Trophy, U Sports First Team All-Canadian, and Carleton's Male Athlete of the Year. He was selected 11th overall in last year's draft, making him the second highest draft choice in Ravens football history behind Nate Bahar, who went 5th overall in 2017. Best of luck in Toronto, Jack.
The most successful coach in Canadian University men's basketball history, Dave Smart, has helped make the city of Ottawa synonymous with basketball greatness. Smart's teams have won an astonishing 13 national titles, and he has won the Aberdeen Trophy as U Sport Coach of the Year 9 times. In addition to his varsity coaching career, Smart has also worked with Canada Basketball on numerous occasions. Dave Smart was inducted into the Order of Ottawa by Mayor Jim Watson. Prior to the 2019-2020 NHL season, Smart was appointed a coaching consultant by the Ottawa Senators. Inducted into the Ottawa Sports Hall of Fame class of 2020 in the Builder category, Dave Smart.
The Ravens were back to practicing last month in the Fieldhouse, Ravens Nest, and Carleton Ice House. It was great to see the student athletes back to competing and bonding in person with their teammates after long weeks of Zoom meetings. Here's to hopes of a 2021 fall varsity season. Well, that wraps up the first edition of Ravens Rewind on Thursday Night Live. I just wanted to thank Trevor Lewis for giving me the opportunity to come on the show and share what our marketing department has been up to this last month. Be sure to follow C Ravens B-Ball, and C Ravens FB on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for all the latest Ravens news. Can't wait to see you all again next month. This is Cole Lawrence signing out.
Thanks to Cole for simply sensational work here. Really enjoyed that. And we look forward to Cole shedding light on all the amazing things we're doing in the social media space each and every month, all year long. We're coming up to the end of the hour, but we do have some time for perhaps a question or two. I'm going to pass it back to Jeff, reach into the Thursday Night Live mailbag, maybe bring up a question that might be on the minds of many people. Jeff?
Okay, I'm going to point this question at Roberta. This year we had, at the Super Bowl, we had a female official in the Super Bowl, which is great. Now we have Kim Ng is the general manager of the Florida Marlins, the first in the U.S., the first major men's sports team to have a female GM. We had a TSN Raptors basketball broadcast with an all-female crew for the first time ever. Last week, there seems to be a lot of great positive advancements going in. And as with your work on the gender equality or the gender equity program at Carleton, how does this personally, how does it make you feel? And is this something really positive that is just going to snowball forward?
My initial thought is it's about time. Would be my first answer. It's super awesome to see. I always say to people, you can't be it if you don't see it. There's a real lack of representation for female coaches and referees, and like people like Jen Brennan and Cheryl Hunt who have these positions high up in athletics, and there's a huge lack of representation. So the fact that these women were broadcasted on national TV, and young girls and even women my age got to see it was massive, and absolutely it's going to snowball. Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get to the point where it's not woman broadcaster, it's just broadcaster? Is that a barrier you want to see broken?
Yeah, it was a conversation we actually had last week with some teammates, was the fact that the men are often the default when it comes to sports. So we talk about how it's basketball and then women's basketball, or it's soccer and then men's soccer. So yeah, I would love for it to just be broadcasters, not female broadcasters and female referees. Yeah, it would be great to not have gender labels anymore, for sure.
Okay, and I'll fire a question off. I think we have time for one more at Dwayne. Dwayne, there's a good chance that there's going to be a boycott for the 2022 Olympics in China over human rights atrocities. And you mentioned earlier in the program about how the power of sports transcends political power. Is this something that you see that people will think this is the right decision? In the past, Olympic boycotts were sort of frowned upon, but I think now is the time where the pendulum is switched a bit. What are your thoughts on that?
That is a really good question, Jeff. A really intense one too. My thoughts are that while sports do have the ability to transcend barriers and break down barriers, they also have the ability to influence change, right? And I think that's really critical. What we saw recently, and you had made reference to this, Jeff, earlier, with the NBA bubble, and seeing the players say, enough is enough, and demanding more from the NBA Players Association, the NBA organization, and kind of postponing several games to ensure that their voices were heard. I do see a similar effect happening potentially with the Olympics. Can Olympic athletes kind of come together in that same way to implement and affect the change that they want to see as well? I'm not sure what that'll look like. I think it is a lot more complicated because with the Olympics, you are looking for folks from really across the world, from all different lived experiences, all different nationalities. So the perspectives are likely to be a little different. I'm not necessarily sure that it should be frowned upon. I think that we have to consider that athletes are human beings as well. And it's important that we recognize the humanity of athletes. And if that's the decision that athletes want to make, that we should be able to support that from the lens of their human being. And that's a decision that they're making for themselves. We've seen a history of athletes being kind of berated for their protest and for standing up for human rights. And I don't think that is appropriate anymore. I think we've kind of come to a realization that you can't separate the player and the politics anymore, right? Like if someone does decide that they want to take a stand, we should be able to respect them and respect their opinion, respect their perspective, regardless of what that looks like. If whether they end up playing on the field, not playing on the field, they play in protest, that is ultimately going to be up to that individual player. And there's a lot of risk involved with that. I'm sure Olympic athletes who train 4 years to go to the Olympics don't necessarily want to protest, but if they get to the point where they feel that that's a necessary action, if they feel that that's something they need to do, that should speak volumes to really how problematic some of these issues are. If they're willing to put their career and their livelihood and their sport on hold for that specific reason. So yet to be seen. I think it's a little bit more complex than league-based sports because there's so many different sports involved and so many different players. But I do think that if we do see some athletes protesting, that individually we all have to kind of reflect on why that is and kind of what we hope will change in China and around the world.
Well, thanks, Dwayne. And Trevor, we'll throw it back to you.
Thank you very much, Jeff and Dwayne. Definitely a provocative question and amazing answer, Dwayne. Thank you for doing that. As we now hit the top of the hour, we'd like to thank all of our guests and speakers for joining us for this constructive conversation. And of course, you, our attendees, who shared your valuable time to tune in today. But mostly, big props to the student athletes who have endured so much this year and still found time to affect change and time and again rose to the mat and rose to the challenge. I'm reminded by Nadine and Jimmy, and I would be remiss if I did not give credit where credit is due and thank soccer coach Kwesi Loney for his guidance and support for the Varsity Council and for his help to bring this program to life. Thank you, Kwesi. You all give us hope and optimism for 2021, and we hope to see you again as we delve into exciting new topics with various Carleton leaders in the sports arena, with the next topic being the grad show on May the 6th, where we will flip the script and the reins over to student athletes to honor graduating athletes in 2021. Small plug for June and July as well, with June honoring women in sport and July focusing on the road to the Olympics. We look forward to seeing you again then. And remember, be good, be kind, be well. Thank you, and so long, everyone.